Hello world, Kyle here with NimbleNoggin.io, and we are in the Swift Component Store on the Steppers View Controller, and we are going to talk about dates. Now, when you're talking about dates, I would say that there are three important fields, or it's not classes because there's more than three classes, but I guess we can say classes because there are three important classes and a few maybe little other little tidbits. So when you're working with dates in code, most likely the first step or the basis of all this is going to be an NSDate object. And in ViewDidLoad of the Steppers View Controller, I actually have examples of all three of these different parts of dates in Swift that I'm going to talk about. And the first one is NSDate, and we're not using NSDate very much in ViewDidLoad right here in these two little blocks of code. But I am just using NSDate twice to reference the exact date and time of now. So you can actually see the date that I am recording this video at. So in Swift, when you init a new date like this, it's going to create an NSDate object with a reference to the exact moment that that object was created. And you can't customize it by passing in some different parameters to maybe get a date in the future or the past. When you just initialize an NSDate like this, then the time and date that it is pointing to is the moment that it was created. Real quick, the other two parts of dates in Swift that we're not going to talk about today, but that will be covered in the next two videos, are NSDateFormatters, NSDateFormatter, right here, and NSCalendar. And you can see that we also have an NSDate components object here that we're using, but I would lump that into the same section or even video as NSCalendar. And we'll see why when we get there, but we're talking about just NSDates here. So when you create an NSDate, it's not a very pretty or usable object, and that is because the way that the NSDate stores its time is through an absolute time interval reference to exactly midnight on January 1st, 2001 in UTC time. So that means that no matter where you are in the world, an NSDate is going to look like a giant number. Okay, we're back. And I have actually created a playground that I've called Dates Playground. I don't know if I will commit this to the repository, but it's a great place for us to work right now. This didn't actually show what I wanted it to, and there's obviously some additional calculating going on here. But when you create that NSDate, it's just going to be a big long number that most of the time when you see that big long number, it's going to be formatted into a different way. And we can see here it looks like it's been formatted to show us the month with a shortened like abbreviation of the month, and then the day, the year, and the time, 8:17 in the morning. So I'm gonna see if I can actually get a nastier formatted version of this, and I actually just got it with date.description. And the description is a property that I think is on NSObjects, so pretty much any object that you have in Swift is going to have this description object, or this description property. What happens when we would NSLog a date, and we can actually do that here, we can, if I can type correctly, we can NSLog this date, need another parentheses, and it should print the exact same thing right here. And we can see how this is formatted is not even the value that an NSDate stores for itself, but that it is still formatted so that it's readable, but it's not quite formatted so that it is beautiful. And we can see here again that it's 2015, October 2nd, but the time says 13:20 and 6 seconds, and it is not 1:20 p.m., it is 8:20 a.m. But this plus 0000 at the end is actually what is referencing the time zone that I am in right now. And I am not in this time zone, so I guess At 8:20 a.m. in my time zone, it is actually 1:20 in UTC. So if we used a date formatter or something to account for my time zone right now, then we would be able to format this so that it would say 8:20:06, and even without the AM, and have the correct plus whatever that would be. I guess that would be a -5, -500, or -5,000. I'm not sure. But that's not important. But the point I'm trying to make with this playground is that an NSDate by itself is not really the most useful thing. It's just to store the data for a moment in time. And often when you would need to edit that date or view that date from the UI, you would need to spend some additional work on that. Because when your user's using your app and they see a date, they're not going to want to see it in this format. They're going to want to see something like this, or even something simpler, maybe something longer with more data. You can see that this does not have the seconds. It does not spell out the full word October, and it doesn't have the time zone. But the point that I'm trying to make is that an NSDate is great just to store a value and to maybe compare to another value later on. But by itself, and concerning the UI that I have open here, it's not going to be the most useful, and you're going to have to know how to use some other classes to actually get it to work for you. Thanks for watching.